John, how does a performer magician find their persona, if you will? I mean, yours is so unique, at least in terms of what I have seen, and I think I've seen, my fair share of magicians. How did you find Handsome Jack?
Well, I would say there were two questions there. One was how did I find Handsome Jack, and how should or do performers find their personas, which are sort of the same question, but kind of different, because my advice would be don't do it the way I did it, and sort of do it exactly how I did it. And by that, I mean the part that is useful to other people is the fact that my persona came about because I paid attention to how the audience was responding to my early magic performances, and I really noticed what kinds of tricks and what kinds of jokes, etc., worked and hit, and what kinds didn't. And so I pursued that. I've seen, many magicians who just do what they do. Doesn't matter if it works or not, they just keep doing it because, that's what is in their head that they should do. So the story about Handsome Jack is, like I said, magic was my hobby, and I was hanging out at the castle and becoming friends with magicians. And we were all youngish in our 20s and 30s. And this group that I was hanging out with, most of them were at a stage where they were just starting to get booked to perform at the castle and just starting to do their first, serious and real professional gigs. And I noticed, like, hey, wait a second, after a year or two, all my friends were performing at the castle and I wasn't. So I thought I would put together an act for the parlor and spend a year or so working on it. And if I felt it was, good enough at the end of the year, I would audition. And so I had an idea for an act where I would be a sort of not incompetent, but I guess the Yiddish word would be nebishi. This guy who magic stuff is happening, but it's not magic that I was in control of. For example, like the $11 trick, or the 11 card trick, where you keep counting cards and the number of cards or bills, if you use money, keeps changing, but it's not changing because of anything you're doing. It's happening impossibly but mysteriously, and you don't know. And I had an idea to do that, and a thing like I was going to use sliding silks in a way. I was going to do a cards across routine, and I was going to say, we need a bridge between the two of you for the cards to go across. And so that I would take two handkerchiefs and tie them together and have each of them hold an end. But then the handkerchief, the knot would keep dissolving. And I tie it again, it would keep dissolving. So again, it's magical, but it's not magic I was in control of. So that was going to be the whole act. Lots of very magical things, none of which I intended. And one of the tricks was one where I sort of rigged up a contest where a spectator could win a prize. And then I revealed to the audience that the game, the lotto, was rigged, and the prize was a date with Mr. Magic. And I would always pick, an attractive woman from the audience to win the prize. But we didn't know the prize was a date with Mr. Magic, and we didn't know yet that the game was rigged. So that was the trick that played the best in those early shows of mine. And I thought, okay, what trick isn't working well? And so the trick that was playing the least well, I dropped. And I thought, what's a trick that could go well with this win a date with Mr. Magic? And so I picked another trick that I thought would play well with it. And I sort of repeated that process over the course of the year. I'd say, what's the weakest thing in the act? So I dropped it. What could go well with the things that are working on? And so by the end of the year, all of a sudden, I had morphed into Handsome Jack, male model magician. And if you had told me at the beginning of the year that's what I'd be doing, I would have said, you're out of your mind. I would have said, there's no way I would be doing that. That sounds stupid. That's not my kind of comedy. It's not the kind of thing we're doing. It's almost the opposite of what I intended. But, there we were at the end of the year, and here I am 25 years later.